Definition of key terms. Cultural diversity and culturally diverse. Cultural diversity is the presence, expressions, and participation of many different individuals and communities coexisting in the general culture of a society. It is the explicit recognition that the contribution and participation of all peoples, including marginalized people, have the potential of equal value and benefit to the society at large. While cultural diversity is a broad and inclusive term, the Canada Council uses the adjective culturally diverse to respectfully identify marginalized ethno-racial groups that correspond to visible minority groups. Culturally diverse arts organizations are those that work primarily with and advance the artistic practices of Canadian artists from visible minority groups. This means of African, Asian, Latin American, Middle Eastern, and mixed racial descents. Disability. A disability may result from audible, visible, invisible conditions or impairments. These could be present from birth, caused by an incident, or developed over time. Regardless of the particular characteristics of these perceived impairments, the Canada Council's understanding of disability is based on lived experience. People may have physical or mental characteristics that differ from perceived social norms and expectations. They become disabled when societal and structural barriers exclude them from full participation and access to opportunities and resources. Furthermore, people with disabilities may be significantly disadvantaged because of prejudice and discrimination. Disability arts organizations are those that work primarily with and advance the artistic practices of Canadian artists with disabilities. These organizations often engage in disability arts. This means arts practices that explore and represent the expressions, perspectives, and lived experiences of people with disabilities. Deaf culture and hearing loss. While people with disabilities and deaf people share similar and often overlapping histories in experiencing systemic barriers, these groups are different from each other. Many deaf people identify themselves as culturally deaf because they share distinct sign languages, traditions, values, histories, aesthetics, and norms. Sign languages are regionally and culturally specific visual languages with unique syntax and grammar that are distinct from written and spoken languages. In addition, people can experience a broad spectrum of hearing loss, including hard of hearing, oral deaf, deafblind, and late deafened. These individuals may not have the same degree of participation in deaf culture, and they may identify as having a disability rather than as being culturally deaf. Deaf arts organizations are those that work primarily with and advance the artistic practices of Canadian deaf or hard of hearing artists. These organizations often engage in deaf arts. This means artistic practices that explore deaf culture, or those that represent the expressions, perspectives, and lived experiences of deaf people, including people who experience hearing loss. Equity.
Equity is a principle and process that promotes fair conditions for all persons to fully participate in society. It recognizes that while all people have the right to be treated equally, not all experience equal access to resources, opportunities, or benefits. Achieving equality does not necessarily mean treating individuals or groups in the same way, but may require the use of specific measures to ensure fairness.